Welcome everybody. It is Tuesday and you are in the kitchen cooking with Evey. So today I am looking forward to making this dish. It's one I got from my mother. Thanks, Mom. This is delicious. It is a chicken dish made in one skillet, which we're going to do here today. And it uses fresh summer produce, namely peaches. I was lucky enough to go to Trader Joe's, and they have a whole bunch of delicious, ripe, flavorful peaches there. So I picked up a crate or a carton of those. I'm also going to be working with a pepper, bell pepper as well, and some sweet onion. And fresh from my garden, some fresh rosemary, which I appear to be throwing around, and some wonderful fresh basil, just freshly picked this morning. So I'm looking forward to being able to use that. Fresh rosemary just smells so good. We'll also be using a little bit of lemon juice in there as well. This is quick and easy, very little cleanup, which I love during the summer. We're not turning on the oven, so right from the cooktop. So to begin, I'm just going to keep my chicken aside here. The chicken that I have actually is free-range organic chicken that I get from Butcher Box. And I'm going to be using chicken thighs. You could use chicken breast, you can use chicken drumsticks. In fact, when I made this dish earlier, I did use some drumsticks that I had as well. I have skinless, boneless, but feel free to use what you have on hand. That's the beauty of cooking for ourselves, right? We get to use what we have. So before I get started, what I'd like to do is just prep my ingredients so I have them ready for when I start heating up my skillet. So the first thing I will do is I have this sweet onion here. I used half of it already. I just need a half of it for the dish. So I am going to peel this, remove any of it looks like there's a little bit of growth on here, so I'm just going to make sure that I remove everything. I'm just going to remove the outer layer so that I get the nice clean layers inside. There we go. Much as it hurts me not to use that outer layer of the onion, because as we know, most of the healthy ingredients and nutrients that are in our fruits and vegetables are found in the outer surface, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of the healthy nutrients, which are phytochemicals, are used to protect the produce from pests and disease. And the best way to do that is to have the outside protected with them, right? So I'm just going to slice, very thinly, slice this onion. And I will show you when I'm done what that looks like. Get about halfway done. I like to turn it sideways just so it's stable again. And then I'm just going to slice through. So I have a bunch of half moons here, half moon slices. There you go. Let me grab a plate to put that on. I like to do this when I'm prepping just to keep things separate and give me my workspace when I'm working on my cutting board here. I'm just going to set that to the side. And the other ingredient that I'm going to use now is my red pepper. You could use a green pepper for this. You could use orange, yellow, whatever you have. I'm actually growing some jalapenos. That probably would work well with that too. It's a jalapeno pepper without the heat. Some might say, what's the point, right? Let me just, there we go. All right, so my pepper here. Just going to rinse out the seeds that are in there. Now, because I sliced the onions like so, I didn't dice them, I will slice my pepper as well. The way I like to do that, if you noticed, is I cut off the top. I took the seeds out. I'm going to cut off the bottom now as well. So you get this little hollow cylinder here. Pull out any of the white parts, white spacers inside. And so you'll see now what I have is a flat surface here. Not quite flat, but easily sliced into matchstick pieces. Like so. Very easy to do. I'm going to be frying these up with the onions, so I'm going to put them right on the same dish as I put my onion slices. I'm just going to finish slicing this up here. Bell peppers, in particular, are full of vitamin C, something very good for our immune systems. So I always like to include some in there. Different colors, again, mean different phytonutrients that protect us. Red pepper. Wouldn't be surprised if red pepper has some lycopene in it. Lycopene is one of those phytonutrients that give the fruits and vegetables the red color. I'll have to check up on that for you just to make sure. See if we're right, if I'm right about that one. You can check for me and let me know. And as you can see now, I took the bottoms and the tops, and I'm just slicing through to get some more, not quite matchstick, but similar enough so that when I fry everything up, it will be nice and uniform. So now what I want to do is I want to get a plate because I am going to be slicing up my peaches. Now, these peaches are not freestone or cling-free, which means they stick to the pit. You know how sometimes you open up a peach and the pit just comes right out? These are not. So let me show you how you can cut these up, slice them up, pardon me, quickly and easily. So what you want to do is you want to look for that line that runs through the middle of the peach. And I'm going to slice down either side of the peach. Sometimes you have to kind of finagle a little just to get around that peach. But here you can see how I did that. And I have now some halves, not quite half, but close to half pieces here. And then it's very easy just to slice these larger pieces into slices, right? Slice it into slices. That makes a lot of sense. Now, you might be wondering, what are we going to do with the meat that's around this side? Well, one thing you can do is just with your knife, as you can see here, I'm just slicing around from the inside of the pit to the outside, just to get some. There are more chunks. If you don't want that in your dish, that's fine. I like to use everything, so I am going to take off as much of that flesh as I can. And I'm left with just this pit here. So I'm going to add this to my slices, my dish of slices. I'm going to do this for 3 different peaches. This is a great dish to use up seasonal foods. Seasonal fruits and vegetables are healthier for us because they are allowed to ripen on the vine. They have their maximum amount of nutrients and flavor. Isn't that great? So, whenever I have an opportunity to use seasonally rather than canned, I will do so. Having said that, if you would like to make this dish at a time when peaches aren't available, canned peaches are also an option. Just be careful when you are looking into getting peaches that you are not getting it in syrup. Look for those that are either fresh juice or I guess it's just fresh juice that they do. I was going to say water, but I don't think they use water for the dishes. You probably noticed that I showed you the rosemary. Rosemary and peaches. Interesting flavor combination, right? Actually pretty good. I actually like that combination. It's unexpected. It gives more of a savory flavor to the dish. And again, rosemary has a lot of healthy nutrients for us. I have to check and see exactly what they are. Sometimes I read these things and I know that it's healthy for us, but I don't remember exactly what the reason is. But it's interesting to note that herbs and spices have a lot of healthy nutrients for us, antioxidants, which keep us healthy, help us age better. So not surprisingly, foods that age us more quickly are those that are processed and high in sugar. Now you might be saying, peaches, they're sweet, they're high in sugar, right? But nature packages sugar surrounded in fiber and healthy nutrients for us. So it is processed by the body differently than refined white sugar, cane sugar. All right, so I now have my major ingredients prepped. I'm just going to clean up my countertop here. Let's make sure I have it. So I have my peaches that I'm going to be adding in, my onions and my peppers. I have my rosemary. I have lemon for later on. Another ingredient that I'm going to be using is balsamic vinegar. In this case, I have white balsamic vinegar, which works very nicely with this dish because it doesn't have a dark color. It's lighter in color. All right, so I think I have everything here. Let's move on to our stovetop and we'll get cooking. Okay, so here we are at the stove. You get to see a different view of my kitchen. But what we want to do first is start to heat up our skillet. I usually put my skillet up on high just to start to get it heated up. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil here. Probably about 1 tablespoon that we're going to be adding. Maybe let's add a little bit more because I don't have the skins on my chicken. I don't want them to stick to the pan. What I want to do is just initially brown my chicken thighs. So let me grab my chicken. Now I did wash these and pat them dry. I don't usually salt and pepper before I do my sauteing, so I'm just going to put them in as they are. Let me just wait. I like to wait until the oil is heated up. Always a good idea. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be browning the chicken. I'm going to transfer that into another plate and let that sit aside. Then I'm going to add in those prepped vegetables and fruit that I showed you just beforehand. So it looks like things are heating up here. I'm going to add in my chicken. Now I rolled these up just so they look nice, but what I'm going to do, because they have been boned, I'm just going to flatten them out so that they cook more evenly. All right, so you can hear them sizzling. I'm going to turn my heat down to medium at this point. I'm just going to let these sit and brown up. Probably take about 5 minutes. Going to give a little bit of time on this side, flip them over, and brown them on the other side. So we'll be taking a look at this in a moment. So welcome back. I have been browning the chicken now for about 5 minutes. I turn them midway through, and I'm going to take them now. I turn the temperature down to medium, as I said. I'm going to transfer these into, I have a separate saute pan here. I'm just going to move that over to the saute pan here because I am going to now add in the vegetables to my saute pan here. And I'm going to start with the onions and the red pepper. What's nice about this is that the oil now has some of the juices from the chicken, and that's going to be infused into our vegetables here. All right. So I'm going to let these saute on a medium heat for another, I'm going to say 5 minutes. I don't want the onions to get too brown, but I'm going to keep sauteing them until the onions start to become translucent. Maybe have a little bit of color to them, a little bit of a golden color. And we'll take a look at them then. All right, see you in a few minutes. So welcome back. I have been browning the chicken now for about 5 minutes. I turn them midway through. And I'm going to take them now. I turn the temperature down to medium, as I said. I'm going to transfer these into, I have a separate saute pan here. I'm just going to move that over to the saute pan here because I am going to now add in the vegetables to my saute pan here. And I'm going to start with the onions and the red pepper. What's nice about this is that the oil now has some of the juices from the chicken, and that's going to be infused into our vegetables here. All right. So I'm going to let these saute on a medium heat for another, I'm going to say 5 minutes. I don't want the onions to get too brown, but I'm going to keep sauteing them until the onions start to become translucent. Maybe have a little bit of color to them, a little bit of a golden color. And we'll take a look at them then. All right, see you in a few minutes. Okay, so this has been sauteing for about 4 minutes. Let me show you a little bit up close. You can see how the onions have started to get a little bit translucent. The peppers have lost that intense red color. That's how you know it's about time to add in our peaches. So at this point, I'm adding in those sliced peaches. And I'm going to saute this and cook it until the peaches are nice and soft. They're going to release their juices, and it will thicken up a little bit as it cooks. What's nice about this dish, along with a lot of the dishes that I make, is that I don't need to add any added sugars. The onions, sweet onions, red pepper, very sweet, and those nice, ripe summer peaches. So I'm getting a nice, sweet flavor without adding in any of those deleterious sugars, right, that I was saying. It's those refined sugars that contribute to inflammation in our bodies. Inflammation, as we know now, is the root cause of many of the chronic diseases that we're seeing in our society today. I feel like I have to talk over the sizzling that's going on here. I hope you can hear me. All right. So, this is cooking along nicely. So what I want to do is add in some of that rosemary. Now, I didn't chop any of my rosemary. I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to add in about, let's see, about 3 sprigs. Maybe not quite all of this. I'll have to see how I feel about it. But I would say in the end, it'd probably be about a tablespoon of rosemary. If you have dried rosemary, maybe about a teaspoon would be good. Especially if you're making this out of season. Remember I said if you have your canned peaches that you're using. I'm just breaking up the leaves as I add them in. I'm going to add in 2 of my sprigs right now. That'll get me to about a tablespoon. Now, in retrospect, maybe I should have chopped this up while I was doing my prep work. But make it work just fine. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. I'm between a medium and a medium-low heat now, because I want it to cook down without burning. Let's see. Adding a few more leaves of my rosemary in. This is the way I cook sometimes, just by look, but gives you an idea. It's still about a tablespoon. All right, let me show you what we've got cooking here now. There you go. All right. I'm going to let this cook down now for about another 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, welcome back. So I've been cooking this down, sauteing it now for about 3 minutes. I want to add back in my chicken at this point, including any of the juices that are in the pan. Now, the bigger your chicken pieces, the longer it will take to cook. But this shouldn't take long. These pieces are fairly small. I'm going to add in now some lemon juice just to finish off, and some balsamic vinegar. So I want to add in about a 1/4 cup, which is about 4 tablespoons of my vinegar. If you don't have a white vinegar, like that, let me fill this up and you can see it a little bit better, what color it is. Can you see that? It's not dark like a regular balsamic vinegar. And it has a slightly milder flavor. This is what the color of a regular balsamic vinegar. All right, let me add that in. This will add a layer of sweetness, but also a tanginess to the dish. I'm going to let that cook in a little bit. Because I want those juices to thicken up a little bit. While we're waiting for that to happen, I'm going to add in the juice of 1 lemon. It's about a 1/4 cup as well, more or less. So let me cut this in half. For those of you who've seen my show before, you know that I like to keep my lemons at room temperature when I'm going to be cooking with them. I like to roll them out on the counter. That helps to start to release the juices even before I squeeze them into my dish. In addition, what I like to do is using a fork or the tip of a knife. Fork is probably safer. Just release some more of those juices. And I'm just going to squeeze this in now. It's a nice juicy lemon. All right. Let me just release some of the juices from this half. making sure you don't get any of your seeds dropping into that dish. All right, wonderful. Oh, this is fabulous. So now, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a stir. This dish makes enough for 4 people. I'm going to serve it over a bed of cauli rice. So one way, maybe with a little bit of a salad on the side, a green, leafy green salad. Add some greens into those yellows and reds. All right, so we're going to let this cook down just a little bit longer. I'm going to put a lid on top and let that just kind of simmer. All right, and I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so we're back to my prep area. I've turned down my skillet to a low temperature with the lid on, letting that simmer. While that's going on, I thought I'd show you how I make my cauliflower rice. Simple, easy to do. Now you can buy it frozen, that's one option, but it's more economical to do it this way if you'd like to save a little bit of money. So I have a half cauliflower here. Half cauliflower is probably enough for this dish that I have there. What I like to do is cut from the stem side, and I'm just going to cut out that stem. And then what happens is you can easily break apart the florets. Now, if you have a big floret like this, what I will do is cut down to the stem so that I can pull it apart and pull it into pieces. I find, at least in my food processor, the smaller the floret is, the more evenly you can grind up your cauliflower into cauli rice, into little rice grains, as it were. All right, so you can see here, I'm creating a bunch of smaller florets. Just by breaking them apart. All right, so here we have our florets. Let me grab, now, you see I have this stem. I will actually cut off the outer portions of that stem and use the core as part of my rice as well, because I'm going to be grinding it up. It's just another way to use more of the cauliflower. Let me grab my food processor now. And I will grab my large blade. Since I have 2 different size containers here, I'm going to use the large container. I find that that's the easiest way to do this. Add in all of my florets. Replace the lid, and I am just going to pulse this for a few seconds. I'm going to do it one more time. See, it's a few big pieces in there. And now you can see we have something that looks like rice. All right. What I will do is I will add this into the smaller skillet that I have and just saute it for a few minutes with some olive oil. And I might add in a little bit of the basil, fresh basil, that I'm going to be adding into our final dish as well. So welcome back to the stovetop here. I put the heat on underneath my second skillet. I'm going to add in a little bit of oil. Now you can use any type of cooking oil that you like. You could use avocado oil. You could use coconut oil if you'd like to add a little bit of that flavor into your dish. I have my rice from cauliflower grains here, and I'm just going to empty that into my skillet. You can hear it sizzling. So it's nice and hot. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. So I have it down on a medium-low here. And I'm just going to use the same spatula that I used to stir up my chicken. All right. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my basil. Now I forgot to prep that over in my prep area, so I'm just going to tear it into my dish here. Now you can chop it up so that the pieces are smaller. But this adds a nice little flavor to it and also a little bit of color. And anytime you have an opportunity to add some herbs into a dish, better for our health. All right, I'm going to add in now a little bit of salt and pepper. All right. I'm just going to let that cook up for a few minutes. It won't take long. I'm going to up the temperature a little bit, and I'm keeping an eye on it. I just want the grains to soften a little bit. Now the trick here is not to add liquid to it, because if you do, it'll get too mushy. So you really want to just saute it in the oil. All right. Now, let's take a look at our dish. Oh, that smells delicious. All right, I may let this cook down the sauce a little bit, but I'm going to take the chicken out so that it has time, it doesn't overcook my chicken. So let me do that. As you can see, I turned up the temperature and it's starting to boil right away. I have that on medium. I'm going to let that simmer for about 5 minutes. In the meantime, I'm putting the rice on low. I'm keeping an eye on it until it just starts to soften. So here we are, we have the finished dish. I added back in the chicken to heat it a little bit. Let me show you. The sauce is thickened up. Our peaches are nice and soft, as are the onions and red peppers, making a wonderful, delicious sauce. So let's plate this up and see how it looks. So I'm going to add in a little bit of my cauli rice now. You can tell that it is ready when it starts losing that very, very white color, which means that it's softening, kind of like an onion. You know, when you're cooking up the onion, it gets a little bit translucent. And then I'm going to add in a piece of chicken into that, and then top that all off with, oh, you know what I want to do? I didn't show you, but because I didn't do it yet, is add a little bit of salt and pepper. I don't tend to add a lot of salt and pepper to my dishes. So it usually gets added at the end. Let me just mix that in. All right, I'm going to turn everything off here. All right. And now, I'm just going to top all of that off with some of these delicious peaches. And a sprinkle of that fresh basil over the top. And there you have it. All right, so you'll have to let me know if you try this. Here, I'll show you the peaches and everything there. And let me know what you think. I'm thinking I've got lunch, dinner here right now. All right, so let me know if you tried the dish. Let me know if you have any suggestions or questions about it. I look forward to cooking again with you next week. Until then, please stay healthy and eat healthy. See you soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.